Alright, so we're back for episode 14. I'm really not a superstitious person, but it is kind of ironic that on episode 13 is where I had the most problems. But whatever. So I was thinking about it to figure out what happened. You know, I mean, without figuring it out, it's going to happen again for something. So I think what happened here is the angle that is here and the angle that is here. When I originally cut it, that was done on the CNC if you remember, I know were perpendicular with each other. But then there was some smoothing that happened, so this got curved. So if I was, I don't have a drill bit, but this is straight. So as I was holding it, I was referencing, you know, a gap here. You know, I was looking, you know, maybe farther towards the back than the front, where, so I already wasn't there, so it was, you know, a lot more prone to walk. And then because it's an asymmetrical design, where this gets cut out, you know, the body sticks farther out on this side than this side. So there's kind of like a couple different optical illusions going on, plus you got stripes going in here. So with the angles in multiple directions, I think is just what gave me a poor visual, and I just didn't execute, I didn't plan right or something, you know. I'm pretty sure that's why it happened, you know. I should be more careful. But anyway, that's behind us. This is what it's going to be now. So there's still a gap in where this rounded over to where this got glued, so it's got to come down. So the only way to make it work, this has to get thinner. I was talking about that on the next episode. So I guess, I mean, that's going to be one of my focuses. Just, I guess I'm just going to chisel and get it straight. Get this just probably, I mean, right now it's 1/4 inch thick, a little bit more. I've probably got to go about 1/3 of the way off, or maybe just 1/4 of the way off. So I'm not taking much, just enough so I have room above for the flange of the tools. So I think I'm going to scoop a little bit out here as well, staying straight with this. Just kind of add a thing in. Just so something, as I'm looking at it, I was thinking, man, that'd be cool. So there's that. I mean, the nut's almost done. You saw how far I got, so I could, you know, I think that bottom is clean to hair. No, not really. It's pretty good. And then just from any work, you know, any clamping that happened, you know, there's got to be, you know, just final sanding. So that really is about it. So I think this will be the final episode before finishing now. So I managed to squeeze it, you know, one farther. So.
Show me sand the floor.
I can't move my arm, all right?
Since I've plugged these holes and redone them and stuff, my initial, you know, small hole where the actual string itself goes through, some of that is plugged in, so I gotta re-drill those holes. And you know, these are just in the center, just the string's going through it. It's not affecting the outside here, so I'm feeling pretty confident now. I just gotta be careful not to hit anything here. Get right in the center there. Kind of get my finger in place so I can feel if I touch. Gotta get a truss rod cover made for this thing. So I took a piece, I already taped it down, that was left over from one of the control cavities. So on the back side, it has some of the Paduk real thin on there. So it has that same effect like the neck and like the covers on the back. So I'm gonna use that same idea, just, you know, it seems to be a theme so far. So use that for the truss rod cover. So I decided I kind of wanted to just do this one by hand for whatever reason. So I glued down these two strips that are equal thickness. So basically it's just like a router sled, except I'm gonna be doing it with a hand plane. So this will get me flat, you know, using these as a reference for the thickness of, this is what I'm gonna make the truss rod cover out of. So I'm just gonna grab the hand plane and get that to the thickness of my guide rails, and then go from there. So this is just about there. I mean, it's probably acceptable. I don't have an actual dimension I'm going for. I'm just going for flat. So is it just sharp? It's a little high. Okay, yeah, it's flat. It just feels a little bit like a lip because it's so sharp of a corner. So that'll make that step. Let me pop this guy up. There's holes in the table, so it makes it easy to do it this way. Maybe not. It's too thin. I don't want to break it. So, let's pull this off. You can see this is the material I'm working with for that cover, so it'll match everything. And I guess I'm gonna have to start drawing something out to cut out. So, gotta figure that out. So I really have no idea what direction I'm going yet with this. So I decided, you know, I made some pieces that were wide enough like this. I just opened them up, you know, in areas so I could sit flat, so I could draw something on there. I'm thinking with the way the headstock looks of doing some kind of asymmetrical design. I just got to make sure that I cover that and I stay away from touching the tuners. So I'm already gonna not touch the tuners here, so I can do whatever outside shape I want as long as I don't go inside of that. I've got, my pieces were too long, so I've got this piece right here. It is super thin on the Paduk, so I could, you know, sand down and get contours, bring the other wood into it. I've got another piece here that's long enough that I could do too, so I got enough to make 4 of them right now. And I'm just gonna take this one and just do whatever happens. Look at it, start making another one, and then once I have 2 and I can compare them, maybe I'll come up with a cool plan of what the final is going to be. Maybe one of them will work perfect. So here is the access. I took a series of measurements at different distances, just for what my maximum width or what my minimum width is. And I didn't even draw center. I just went approximate. If I keep those dashes all on, I know I'm good. I gotta stay away from these, so I already got material taken away. I'm gonna do something asymmetrical. Over here, attached some self-adhesive sandpaper. So I'm just gonna start working it on there, holding it up to the neck, see how it looks, and just keep working around. Let's do it. So I glued this guy down right here so I could start shaping it with a chisel. I need it sitting solid, so I'm gonna kind of round over and stuff like that. And you know, why does truss rod cover have to be symmetrical going to a point, you know, or something? Do it different. Attempt number one, I think it's pretty cool. Little asymmetrical design. It's kind of, I don't know, is it like a old school like carafe shape, I guess, or something? It's, you know, I mean, it's kind of cool. Does its job, right? But it was pretty fun doing that. Didn't take much time. I'm gonna do another one for sure, at least two. I do have to look at this and figure out how I'm gonna mount this. On the bottom right now, you know, I'd have to go wider to get screws in because that's too thin to put screws in. Up top, I could do it maybe just on that corner. Guess that could be enough. Normally you only see one anyway. It's held down good. If I get magnets, it'd be ideal. I'm gonna have to get wider there. Pieces that I have, I might have to think about going with a wider piece so the bottom could be wide enough so I can get, if I can get two magnets. I don't know, do I need a third one on top? I don't know. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna keep doing it, but the first one looks cool. So I was thinking about the attaching and the idea of the magnets, and it's so small. I mean, if I needed magnets towards the tip and the back, I would need 3 in a piece that's going to end up being smaller than this. So I decided to bust out the shoulder plane and basically make a step there so I could set this up against the nut. I could just notch out slightly. The nut will be sticking up, the nut a little bit before I even install the nut. And that could kind of go under, put one magnet here, then if you lift it up, it'll just slide right out. It'll just be a little catch piece, and the magnet holds it down. One magnet at the tip is all I'm gonna need if this works. So, figured give it a shot. You know, if it doesn't work, but for the future I know, this doesn't work. Now that just looks cool. I don't have the nut in right now because of, you know, the rabbit that I have in it that's gonna get sunk into the nut to hold the back down. I've got plenty of room to get that magnet in. If you center this to the stripes and get that to sit where it will touch the nut. Something real close to that. That's just cool. I think I'm gonna commit to that and slowly figure out how I'm going to get the magnets aligned. Or no, one on each piece. But it's going to be just one set of magnets because I'm going to have that sitting there. I guess if I do this one first, if it moves a little bit, because it's asymmetrical, even if I move slightly off center or slightly crooked, I can always modify the back. So if I get the magnet first, then modify the nut. Yeah. I think that's going to be the way to do it. So I got the magnets in, and I couldn't come up with a good way of exactly lining it up to get a mark on the bottom of this and on the top of the actual headstock. So I did it. I kind of flipped it back and forth, tried to figure out with my lines, and I had those off, so I had to move it a little bit. Didn't move it enough. So you can see I got a gap here. And up here, it's not quite, I mean, it's barely passing where I can go into the nut. But I want where this top line is to meet the nut. So I'm going to have to make another one. No big deal. But now I have this to use as a template to figure out. I can leave that magnet in place. When I make the new one, I know how to modify where this has to go. So I got to make sure I don't get smaller here, if anything bigger, because it has to come out towards the end and a little bit this way. And if I go too far out, you know, it's always going to want to have pressure going inwards. So I could purposely make it off where it pushes into the nut. So that's how I'm going to get it done. I think this one's going to turn out really cool. I got one put together. It just had that little bit of Paduke in there. I drilled out from the back, you know, figured out where the magnet, pretty sure I got it right on where it's got to go, which gives it just a hair pressure inwards. And it wasn't quite deep enough, drilled a little more, went too deep. So I glued the magnet in, taping on the bottom so it was flush with the side it has to be flush with, added glue to the top, filled that hole, sanded a slight angle, planed it, planed this small piece of Paduke, glued it on. So now I'm going to sand this basically off. And that part that had the angle, it's just going to get a little bit more Paduke back in there. So you have a little bit at the back, a little bit at the tip. You know, and then once I round it, I think this is going to be really cool. So, just got to finish it up. Alright, so just about got this piece done. I ended up, it was done. I was drilling the hole, it wasn't quite deep enough. I checked it out, it was at the right spot. I was going a little deeper and I drilled through. This piece right here only had that little bit of Paduke anyway that was coming out. So I just sanded on an angle, got it flat enough for gluing, got a little piece of Paduke, glued it on there, and then came back to my little sled system here, flattened it, recontoured it, fixed everything up, and you saw me do it once. I'm not going to do it 7 times for you. But that's how it turned out. So it's pretty cool. I just got to hit the edges a little bit, but it's going to be cool. I'll show it to you on the guitar in a minute. So this is kind of what it's going to look like, because it has that that rabbit on the end of it. If I put the nut in, it doesn't really fit because of this tuner. So this is about, you know, just to get a visual. Or I lift this up, get it to touch both, then you can see it with this in. So, kind of hard to do all that, but I'll get the back of it to center in between those two Wenge lines. Get that cool. I'll probably reshape that a hair, and it'll be happening. It's not what I thought I was going to do, but I didn't even have a plan of what I was going to do, and I think that's pretty awesome. Once I get towards the end, closer to the end, I always I'm looking around, I'm like, what do I got to do before the next step? And just the last couple, sometimes get a little confused on what is the best next step to keep everything going. Once you start putting finish on, sometimes you really notice some of the sanding mistakes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get at least one coat of finish on here so I can look at everything and then decide there's probably going to be some sections I got to do a little more sanding. I'll just do one coat, everything will stand out a little bit better, so I could get that dialed in and then start the finishing. So you saw I was working on this little asymmetrical truss rod cover, pretty cool. What I'm doing to stand this is I just put 2 nails in this piece of wood. They fit inside the holes for the bridge, so I can put that under. I'm not touching any wood at all. I tape the neck off. That's sitting on there, so nothing will be touching. So I could just start out, get the front and sides, carefully flip it over into this, and then do the back. So I'm using this tried and true finish. They have 2 different versions. The original wood finish is linseed oil and beeswax, and that gives you like a satin. And then they have what they call the varnish oil, which is linseed oil and natural resin. If you read it, I think it's basically pine sap. This will give you like a semi. This one's also a lot thinner, where this one's a lot thicker. So I'm going to start getting one coat of this on here. I think this is probably what I'm going to want anyway, but I can do a couple coats. I can mix these. That's not going to be a problem. I've done it. But I think the semi is what I'm going to want. So I'm going to start there. And later on today or tomorrow, I'll see how the sanding looks. So this will bring us to the end of the episode. I pretty much talked you through most of it, so I'm just gonna talk a little bit just about this. I was looking in, I buffed it out today, just hand buffed just without to look at it. There is some light scratches and stuff, so the sanding isn't done. It's pretty good. There's some specific spots here and there and stuff. This area's got to get cleaned up a little bit more than other stuff. But generally, looking pretty close to ready. So, I'm going to do some sanding on this. I'll see, what I'll do. That'll be, over the course of next week. And, the finishing. So, generally looks good. You know, the colors with the finish on there look good. I've got covers, you know, also got the one coat. I forgot to put a coat on the truss rod cover. That's all right. You know, there's going to be multiple coats, so there's one behind, you know. It'll be fine. I was actually debating, that's why I didn't do it now I think of it. I was debating using the fretboard finish because it's so close to it and it has the matching, you know, dual wood thing. So, yeah, that's why I forgot that. I didn't forget it, I purposely didn't do it. So, Mocking a Mockingbird, episode 14 wraps it up.